this is just my life. And I think that's a load of crap. I don't believe it for a second. Our bodies are made to heal. And sometimes you just have to create the best environment for your body in order for it to heal. You have to give it the proper nutritions, the tools in order for your body to do its work. And so some testing you could do is functional testing. This is different than tests that you get done at your regular MD's office. This is, you want to specifically ask for, it doesn't have to be a naturopath, but someone who does functional lab tests, like hair tissue analysis, urine analysis, stool analysis, blood analysis. And again, these are different than the vials of blood that your doctor will get or peeing in a cup at the doctor's office. This is different. Functional testing has been around for a very long time, and they look at things at a microscopic level. Like urine test is for your hormones. Your stool test is to see what good and bad bacteria you have in your intestines. Hair tissue analysis talks about what vitamins and minerals you're deficient or have an excess of. Like, they all test different things. There's not just one test for everything. And yes, it's a big financial investment, but once you get all the information you have, then you'll know how to combat it. And so the problem is we're just not doing the right tests. It's not just your life. Your life doesn't have to be like this forever. Just get the right tests and the right tools to nourish your body, to give, so that your cells can do the work to heal itself.
Welcome to the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast, where you master your mind and coach your own comeback. You are the hero, you are the guide, and you will learn to architect your life from the inside. I'm your host, Bretagne Stowe, joined by my sister and co-host, Anike Wilder. Enjoy the show. Today is a very personal and real episode about health, how health can impact and motivate you, and what to do about it. It's going to be a little vulnerable as we share stories of our own health journeys. And so I'd like to just start by sharing a disclaimer. We are not doctors. We are not nurses. We are not licensed medical professionals. This episode is about our personal experiences and what we've learned throughout our own health journeys. So please consult a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine.
You know, Bretagne, even though we're not in the medical industry at all, I do think that we are credible sources in how we coached ourselves to have better health. And this is one of the most important topics that I coach on all the time and that I speak on to real estate groups, is that if you don't have health, if you don't have energy, if you don't have the physical motivation because you're sick, you're depressed, you don't have like physical strength in your muscles and your bones, like how can you succeed at the level that you're meant to? So health is just so important. And for me, I heard this on the School of Greatness podcast where Lewis Howes says health has to be number one, and then your mission and purpose. Because if you don't have good health, how can you fulfill your purpose? And then number three, he said, was his girlfriend at the time, now soon to be wife. And most women would be like, what? I'm not number one. And he said, no, like if I put health first, then I'll have energy for my purpose and for you. And if you allow me to work on my purpose, then I will be the boyfriend. I will be such a good boyfriend that you'll feel like number one. But he said number one is always health. And so, Bretagne, I don't know how much you want to share because I know it's very personal to you, but you've had quite the health journey and I've got to witness almost all of it. And I know there's things that I still don't know, but give us a background of where you came from. I mean, even starting as a little baby, tell us about your health journey.
Yes, I loved what you shared too about Lewis Howes, because I've heard that and I completely agree. Health has to come first. And if you don't have your health, then you don't have anything. You can be a millionaire and be on your deathbed. And what is the point of that? Having all these riches. And so having your health come first is number one. And my history is spotted with lots of health issues. And I think that does make us an expert. I mean, this is the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast. So it is using our experiences that will hopefully motivate others to resonate. Like, yes, I do have a similar story. I was super sick, or I did almost die. And so that's where my story begins. When I was born, I looked healthy. Everything seemed to be okay. But I quickly went from 8 pounds to 4 pounds, and I was shrinking immediately. And my mom takes me to the doctor. I'm only about 10 days, 2 weeks old. And the doctor says, "Oh, well, she's dying. She probably will die, but we can do exploratory surgery and try to figure out what's wrong with her." And so my mom was told to say goodbye to me. I was her second born, her first daughter. This is all a huge shock just weeks after having me. And she's told that I'm going to die. And they take me to the emergency room and they open me up and they find out that my intestines were completely in knots and in the wrong place. And there was a block between my intestines. I had a duodenal web so that food was not going down. And that's why I was shrinking. And I couldn't keep any food down. And while they were in there, they also noticed something weird, that all of my organs were just shifted out of place. Now, this was probably due to my intestines being backwards and not the way it should. And you're a little body, right? A little baby. So one thing definitely affects another in such a small child. And they had to take, my mom talks about like it's the game Operation where you take all the pieces out and you have to put it all back together. They had to basically take me apart and put me back together internally to hope that I would function like a normal human. They sewed me up and they said, "Good luck." Well, fortunately, I lived through that, and it was quite a journey. And I had to learn how to use my intestines, and my whole digestive system was wrecked for most of my life. And then when I was 2, I had another scare and almost died with a blood condition, which used to be called ITP, idiopathic thrombocytic purpura. I don't know what they call it now. It has some new name, but it was a blood condition about my blood doesn't clot. So I could have internal bleeding and I could bleed internally and die, and no one would know. And it would be from tripping and falling on my knee like a normal kid, or running into a door, which I still do today. And I had several other health issues throughout my life, and it hindered me. And I just saw myself as a sickly kid, that there are certain things I can't do because I'm sick. I'm going to be sick to my stomach always. I'm not allowed to do anything super physical because I could get hurt and I could internally bleed. And I had ailment after ailment. And I won't go into all of it today, but I honestly suffered for probably the first like 28 years of my life with several different ailments, until finally I decided enough is enough. So I'm going to stop there for a second and see if you have any questions, Anike. Did I miss anything that I should hit on?
Well, I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go, but I remember when you were 28 and you were heavier, you were uncomfortable with your body, you didn't feel good, you were on medication that wasn't good for you. I remember talking to you and you couldn't even keep your eyes open. Like you were like, I don't know if you were falling asleep. It was just a weird side effect. And I was like, something is really wrong. But I didn't know. I was a doctor. I'm the little sister. And I remember seeing that. And then I don't know if you want to talk about a pivotal moment, if there was a pivotal moment, but ever since then, and 10 years later, you're like in the best health ever. And I don't know if I fully know the story of like what made you change, what made you coach yourself out of that so that you are one of the healthiest people that I know now.
Yeah, it's a many things. I know a lot of people are looking for the secret, right? What's the magic bullet? What helped you all of a sudden turn your life around? There were several pivotal moments, but essentially I hit a type of rock bottom. I was 28 in a job that was stressing me out, not living my purpose. I still held a lot of resentment. Couldn't quite figure out how to forgive myself and others. I was in a victim mindset. And I remember having the ability to go to Vegas for my birthday. and with all my girlfriends. And I currently had chronic shingles, another ailment where at a young age in your 20s, you shouldn't get shingles at all. But if you do, it's usually one and done. And I had shingles for 2 years and I was suffering. My whole immune system was shot. Like when I say I was a sick person, I wasn't just overweight, I was obese. I wasn't just sick. If you look at pictures from that time in my life, you can just see it on my face. I was over medicated. I was on a lot of prescriptions. Just not in a good way. But I remember trying to like have a good time around my 28th birthday in Vegas with my friends. And we are doing the whole VIP Vegas thing with promoters, getting into clubs for free, dinner for free. And I should be really happy. I'm with my best friends and I'm in a cute dress and I should be living up this moment and feeling so happy. And I remember sitting in a VIP area with bottle service and feeling like a celebrity. And I just thought, this is not how I want to spend this year. This is not a comfortable feeling. I don't feel good in my body. And so I'm not able to enjoy this VIP experience. I'm not able to enjoy all the wonderful things around me, my friends who, took me to Vegas. And I just remember thinking, I need to make a change. And so I told my friends, stay, have a great time, celebrate my birthday. I'm going to go back to the hotel. And I took a taxi and went back to the hotel. And I sat and wrote in my journal about how I wanted the next year to look like, the next 7 years, the next 28 years, and really decided to take time that I never take to start to visualize the life that I wanted. And so that was one of the pivotal times in my life where I decided, okay, enough is enough. And what's interesting about this is 28 is divisible by 7. And every 7 years, our bodies regenerate. Every 7 years, I don't know if you know this, listeners, this is so cool. Every 7 years, every cell in your body has regenerated and you are completely new. This is where the 7-year itch comes from in relationships. And so I believe that I had been sick for 4 cycles of 7. And I finally had come far enough away from the sickest time in my life as an infant and a child. And I had enough good, healthy cells that my body was able to start to see, okay, you don't have to live like this. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to be this sickly person anymore.
Yeah, and what's important about Britannia's story is that it started with a decision, and that decision was, I'm not going to live like this anymore. And then you visualized and you planned out what you wanted. And this is important because if you don't have good health, you don't have the energy, if you can't even think straight, if you can't get up in the morning, how are you ever going to have the life that you really want? How are you going to start the business you want, make the money you want, have children? If you have health issues, you're likely having infertility issues. And so health has to come first. And so there are so many different like hidden health barriers that people have they're not even aware of. And I know you're going to talk about some of these, but one that I had is adrenal fatigue. And I had no idea what that was, but I would pass out all the time. I would get up and I would black out. I couldn't stand up in the shower. It got to the point where every time I stood up, my vision would black out and I'd have to hurry sit down. I fainted in high school a few times. And then all the way up until when I got married and I was 25 years old, it got worse. And then I got pregnant and it got even more worse. And doctors never realized what it was until I went to a naturopath. So a little plug for naturopaths. And they're the ones that were like, oh yeah, you have adrenal fatigue. We can fix that. And I was like, what? Like I've been told, like, I don't know what it is, or this is just your life, like low blood sugar or whatever. And I did have like a blood pressure thing too, but the main culprit was adrenal fatigue. And so I got on some adrenal supplements and some other supplements, and I never passed out again. And now I'm 35 years old. 10 years later, I never passed out. And every once in a while, I might get a little dizzy if I hadn't eaten, but it's not like it was before. And now it's so interesting. Now I'm a business owner. I'm more motivated. I have more energy than I did at 25 when I felt like I was asleep. I would just work for a 9 to 5 job, sit on the couch, and not have any motivation to do anything worthwhile with my life. And now I've got all the motivation because I've got my health in order. And now I'm doing like a paleo diet. It's way good for my body, and it's not all one size fits all. So you got to figure out what is best for you specifically.
Anike, thank you for sharing that. And adrenal fatigue is one of those things that your traditional doctor is not going to know about, not going to test about. So, yes, we're always going to plug for our naturopaths. Some other common hidden health barriers, one that I specifically suffered from was being overprescribed medication. There was a time in my life that I was prescribed several, not one, but several pain medications. I'm talking C2 opioids, your Oxycontins, your morphines. I was on so much medication that my body didn't understand a proper pain response. And so anytime that I suffered from a pain, which is a symptom, right? Pain is a symptom that your body is trying to communicate something to you. I would have a whole other slew of health issues. So I'd go to the doctor and they would prescribe me something else. And I would get muscle relaxers, and I would get anti-anxiety, and I would get, stuff for depression, and I would get all these other medications. And I was on more medications than your average senior adult living in assisted living at 25. As someone who is still forming their brain and still growing and should be very healthy at peak performance, I was quite sick. So look at yourself, look at your medications. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, we're not doctors. And if you're prescribed something, there may be a reason, right? But ask questions. Just because you're prescribed it doesn't mean it is right for you. Another ailment is chronic stress. That's where my chronic shingles came from. I was constantly under stress. I may have had adrenal fatigue. I don't know. I never got tested for that, but I was so stressed out that anything, a cold, could put me out of commission. Anike, with adrenal fatigue, that your body is under a lot of stress as well. And so if you are suffering from low blood sugar or something else, it all just compounds, right?
Yep, exactly. And adrenal fatigue usually shows up, for those that are wondering, you might have energy in the morning, but you have like an afternoon lull and you just can't get moving. You're not motivated. You can't think straight. That's very common for adrenal fatigue.
Yeah. And could also be related to stress and any cortisol
Yeah.
dysregulation. Also, any autoimmune disorders. If you're constantly sick, you can't fight off a cold or some bacteria, maybe there is an underlying issue. Having a blood issue, a blood disorder is an autoimmune disorder. Having chronic shingles is an autoimmune disorder. If you have one autoimmune, you are more susceptible to others. So understanding that and being able to get your body under control so that you can manage underlying issues so you can better be protected for things that come up. I would also say lack of key nutrition. This was huge for me. I didn't have proper working digestion or intestines. And so I was just used to that heavy, sick feeling. And I didn't even understand that I could feel light when I ate, or that I could feel light in general or have regular bowel movements. I mean, this might be TMI, but it was like once every 3 days for most of my life. It was not healthy. And, Anike, you have been such an advocate about proper diet and health. How has that changed your life when you are trying to regulate being a business owner and a mom? How important is your diet to you?
Oh, it's number one. Health
Yeah.
is number one, and the number one under the number one is good food. We eat organically. We try to cook from home. If we go out, it's we're not buying a lot of like fries. We don't ever go to McDonald's or Burger King or Taco Bell. Like we don't ever go to any of those places. And I don't feel like bogged down and heavy. Something that's also super important is good filtered water, but then also not overeating. So even if I was eating organic steak, vegetables, potatoes, it could be a whole salad, but if I ate more than I needed, I would feel very tired. And so that was another key ingredient for me is I needed to stop when I was just full. Like not people say stop when you're not hungry anymore, but I wanted to be right where that mark was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to eat anymore. Even though it tastes amazing, you can have leftovers. You don't have to eat it all in one sitting. Your body will thank you for not overeating.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because growing up, we had to finish our plate. And when you are taught that you don't waste food, you finish your plate, that can cause actually food disorders, eating disorders down the line. And I know that that was one of the things that I struggled with. We won't go into that today, but I struggled with knowing when to stop eating. And so now one of the ways that I kind of life hack that is I will leave a bite on the plate, just knowing that it's okay to leave something on my plate because it's easy to overeat. Now, I will say I am almost 9 months pregnant right now. So I am eating a little bit more than I used to.
That's so funny. Well, and then there's also environmental factors. This is also huge. People think like I'm just tired and I don't know what it is. Doctors don't know what it is. You might have mold in your house. Like this is a very common thing, or heavy metals from your water. That's why I mentioned filtered water. But people don't realize like the lack of ventilation in your house or mold spores. You could have mold like behind your walls, even in new construction. Now I'm in real estate. I know that there could be mold even in the newest, prettiest mansions in the world can still have mold. And so super important if you crossed out all the other possibilities of what it could be, try testing for mold in your body and in your house because that can wreak havoc on your body like nothing else.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I think we should talk about that testing and tracking. So, like, what can you do about it? Here are these hidden health barriers that people may not even know about. And if
Mm-hmm.
your, insurance doesn't, cover it, you may not even have your doctor suggest it. So, what is some like testing and tracking that people can do to find some of these underlying issues?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked. And I want to preface this because one of my biggest pet peeves of people's excuses is this is just my life. This is just the cards I've been dealt with. I just have Hashimoto's. I just have adrenal fatigue. I just have hair loss. I just have thyroid issues. This is just my life. And I think that's a load of crap. I don't believe it for a second. Our bodies are made to heal. And sometimes you just have to create the best environment for your body in order for it to heal. You have to give it the proper nutritions, the tools in order for your body to do its work. And so some testing you could do is functional testing. This is different than tests that you get done at your regular MD's office. This is you want to specifically ask for, doesn't have to be a naturopath, but someone who does functional lab tests like hair tissue analysis, urine analysis, stool analysis, blood analysis. And again, these are different than the vials of blood that your doctor will get or peeing in a cup at the doctor's office. This is different. Functional testing has been around for a very long time, and they look at things at a microscopic level. Like urine tests is for your hormones. Your stool test is to see what good and bad bacteria you have in your intestines. Hair tissue analysis talks about what vitamins and minerals you're deficient or have an excess of. Like they all test different things. There's not just one test for everything. And yes, it's a big financial investment, but once you get all the information you have, then you'll know how to combat it. And so the problem is we're just not doing the right tests. It's not just your life. Your life doesn't have to be like this forever. just get the right tests and the right tools to nourish your body to give so that your cells can do the work to heal itself.
Yes, praise, preach. And if we can give a little shout out to Dan Wilder's company, Paleos Academy, I know that he has been pivotal in my life and understanding where my deficiencies are. And you don't have to be from Idaho to benefit from his services.
Yeah, he's amazing. So he does all of those functional tests and you can order them. They come straight to your house and then you send them to a lab and then he can talk to you over Zoom if you're not in Idaho to go over your lab results. And then he can help come up with a very individualized plan. This is so important. Bretagne has different health stuff than I do, and we're sisters. We have to treat it so hyper individually. But that's just functional testing. There's other things that we can do that are lifestyle adjustments. And this is Bretagne. This is like your bread and butter. So tell me about the lifestyle adjustments.
Yes. So we're going to list a few different things. It's important to remember you start with just one, or start with how can I feel 10% better? One of those things is nutrition. Let's talk about substitutions over restrictions. If you are the type of person who just needs something sweet every day and you're having a hard time letting go of that, instead of going for a candy bar, move to a protein bar. It's still packaged, it's still processed. It's not as good as maybe eating salmon, but you're making small changes. So if you go, oh, what's that?
Was like, oh, I have
Oh.
someone you need to follow on Instagram. I think her name is Carolyn, but her Instagram is just dot ingredients. It is the perfect Instagram to make those substitutions. She says, like, instead of Cheez-Its, eat this brand. Instead of chocolate, like Chips Ahoy, eat this brand. Like, you can still have chocolate chip cookies that are healthier for you with all that, without the added junk. Like, her whole entire business is all about eat this, not that. And it makes those substitutions super, super easy.
Oh, I love that. Yes, share those resources. And if anyone else has a resource that has been really impactful, please share that with us. Instead of taking away, you want to replace. So that's really important. Always adding more protein as well will be helpful. Most of us don't get enough protein, and we think we don't need that much because maybe I'm not bodybuilding, I'm not lifting weights, but you need about a gram of protein for each pound that you are. And that's if you're not lifting. So making sure you're getting enough protein. And to do that, you can start tracking your macros. Your macros, tracking how much fat you need, how much protein, how many carbs. And each body type is different. Anike mentioned that she eats a certain type of diet for her body type. I am also more like pescatarian. I eat a lot of fish. She's more paleo. Again, we're sisters, but we're different. And so finding what works for you. I would also say meal planning. It is so easy to eat stuff that's not good for you when you don't plan, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We've all heard it before. So allow yourself some time, maybe on a Sunday afternoon, to go to the grocery store, buy some chicken breast, buy some rice, buy some broccoli, throw some things together. You don't have to plan your entire week and every meal for every day, but if you can plan a couple of lunches, it will set you up for success.
I love that. Planning is everything. And then you do that a lot, but you also do a lot of movement. If you think of like a body of water, if a body of water is just sitting there, it gets stagnant and it's more likely prone to bacteria. The same thing with our body. Like, we don't want our body to be stagnant. You get stuck. You are more prone to bacteria. You're more prone to dis-ease if you're not moving. So movement is super important. And that looks different for everybody. It could be cardio, strength training, stretching. Bretagne does a little bit of all of it. She has like the craziest, strongest arms around. And so this is, I think, a huge part of your health journey too, right, Bretagne? Like making sure you're in the gym every day.
Absolutely. And even if I don't make it to the gym, I do something at home. And I think all three are important: cardio, strength training, and stretching. Cardio will give you energy. Strength training will teach you resilience. I'm telling you, if you can bench press a bunch of weights off your chest, you can do almost anything. And stretching will help your nervous system. So all three are really important. I also want to share that, we've talked about it before. We'll say it again. The law of inertia. An
Mm-hmm.
object in motion stays in motion. So start with one thing and it will build, right? Don't sit on your couch and wait for someone to encourage you. Get up off the couch, go grab carrots instead of chips. Do something small. Look into having functional tests. Like, what can you do? Make small changes. I know that with how sick I was and how much pain I was used to having, I didn't understand that that wasn't normal. So I want to encourage our listeners during our Coach Yourself segment. What is your normal? Are you exhausted every afternoon? Do you not sleep well? Are you irritable? Do you feel heavy every time you eat? Write down what your normal is and then start looking into some functional tests that you can find out, is this normal or is this just your normal right now? And you can start looking into some changes into your life. I would also encourage you to ask yourself, does your physical state influence your mental state? I know that if you are suffering from pain, it is difficult to focus. If you have a heavy gut, you have brain fog. Start to see these correlations. Notice if you do eat something, do you feel quicker and wittier afterwards, or do you feel slower and dumber? And what are maybe 1 to 2 symptoms that you have been ignoring? Often when we go to the doctor, we just go for our checkup. Maybe you don't even go for your annual checkup. You go when something is really, really bad. Well, we wanted to have this discussion to encourage you to take control of your health before it gets too bad, before it gets quote unquote too late. I don't think there's ever a too late. I think you can always turn around and decide to make a change. But why wait for 10 years down the road of more symptoms and more brain fog and more misery and more pain when you can make a change today by going and just getting some answers? Empower yourself to create that change in your life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think a lot of the times it starts with your adrenals. I really do, because if you don't have any kind of motivation, like physical energy to take pills, supplements, or eat right or go to the gym, start with just the adrenals. Like go check if that's something that's your issue, or maybe it's thyroid or something. Do the functional testing, figure out what's causing the delay in your energy source. And then once you figure that out and you have energy, then it's easier to make those other changes. It's just one step at a time. No, it is a financial investment, but your health investment's the best investment you could ever make.
Yeah, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And remember, by supporting my body, I am supporting my dreams. That's an affirmation that you can say out loud to help you come to terms with investing in yourself and investing in your health. Remember, motivation isn't just mental, it is physical. So please take care of yourself, take care of your mind, body, and spirit. And if you have any other health hacks that you want to share, send them our way. This has been another episode of the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, subscribe and share the love. And remember the teachings of Lao Tzu. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Until next time, trust yourself, take the wisdom, take the breath, and take the next step.